Let's go for the actual score. Europa, natural
Yes. Let's go for the actual score. So greetings, humanity, and welcome to Europa Natural Law, a smaller roundtable transmission today. Just got the hardcore crew here to heal the madness, badness, and sadness plaguing our beautiful, bountiful world as ever. So through regaining our sanity, reclaiming our inborn sovereignty, and honoring our inherent responsibility, we can improve reality. And that's what we're hoping to help everyone do here today. So I'm Nemo Jones, reporting for Beauty. And we also have, who would like to go? Derek?
Ladies first, but yeah, Derek Barlocelli from France. Bonjour, bonjour. Comment ça va, les gars?
Okay, I'm Yvonne from Norfolk.
And I'm Wolfgang Kempfer from Germany.
So welcome to you all, and thank you so much for joining us. I got my homebrewed kombucha here to keep me going through the show. It's going very well. And our subject for today is shadow work, which is such an important subject. And I thought I'd kick off with a few little notes about it. Basically, why are we going on about natural law? What's the purpose of this? You know, it's not an academic thing. I might have said this before on the show. There's an academic aspect, there's an intellectual aspect, but it's all about right action. It's determining morality and what is truth, and then how we act in response, you know, to that. Once we the more we can understand truth, the more we can act from a position of right action. But the problem with truth, or it's not the problem, but it can seem like a big problem, is, to quote Bertolt Brecht, truth is by its very nature at war with the forces of falsehood and deceit. And as we've discussed before on the show, the forces of falsehood and deceit are everywhere. They're outside us and they're within us because we've inherited them. We've been born into a world full of lies, and we imbibe this soup of lies and make it and carry on and continue it. So part of like enlightening ourselves, part of this whole process is to fight those lies within and without. But a big part of it is within. Really, the first part of it starts within. And to quote Adyashanti, this enlightenment process is a destructive process. It means the crumbling away of untruth, seeing through the facade of pretense, the complete eradication of everything we imagined to be true. Everything we imagine to be true has to go if we want to be enlightened, if we want to see reality clearly, accurately, and then act accordingly. And that's why we're doing this show. You know, it's not just for fun. It is fun, but it's like, you know, it is a spiritual, actually a spiritual war between truth and deceit, you could say. So that's really the root of this question of shadow work. Is like when you enter into really seeking for truth, you really have to expect a lot of resistance internally and then externally. But you know, it's the internally is completely your responsibility, and it's your responsibility, it's your ability to respond to that in the appropriate way, which is to say, okay, this is uncomfortable, but is it true? So the big part of the question of shadow work is this dichotomy between the comfortable lie and the uncomfortable truth. And obviously, you know, what this journey is all about is choosing the uncomfortable truth, choosing discomfort, you know, over what we've learned, the patterns that we've learned, all of the programming, the conditioning, all of our own trauma that tells us that we're not capable, we're not good enough, all of this stuff, you know, which I'm coming to realize, well, re-realize again and again, that is, you know, we know everyone's got psychological issues and all this kind of stuff, but like really there's a root level, which is, you know, inadequacy and this feeling of low self-esteem. I'm not good enough, I'm not capable. And you know, that's not actually true. You know, we are capable of perceiving the truth, and we are capable of acting in accord with it. All of us are. You know, the truth is actually really should be, well, it is, and our understanding of it should be step by step, actually quite simple. You know, so that's some stuff about it. I mean, another thing I wanted to quote, it's not exactly a quote, but it's to just refer back to Nichiren again, who's this, you know, 13th century Japanese teacher. He talked about the people who are like sort of pursuing the path of right action being sort of attacked by devils, and the devils, he used this phrase, the devils are vying with one another to interfere and impede right action. So, you know, you can take that figuratively or literally, but it's this kind of idea, and I think we can all recognize this when we think about things like addictions and distractions, all the myriad distractions of life, and the obfuscation, the different narratives, different ideologies kind of coming in. Oh, you got to believe this, or you got to believe that, and then oh, but then you have to be enemies with that person because they don't, etc., etc. All of this stuff that really gets in the way of a direct relationship with truth and with reality. Yeah, all of this stuff you can think of as like devils kind of crawling over each other, trying to get their claws into you and to like stop you from seeing the truth. And I think it's a really powerful image, whether he meant it literally or whether you can take it literally if you like. But it's kind of, that's in a way beside the point, because it's this image of like, oh right, yeah, that's what I'm actually up against. But it's not to give responsibility away. Of course, we're responsible for our own, basically for our own trauma, for our own BS, for our own self-delusion, all of this stuff. Really, that's just a useful image, you know, that I think is worth carrying to sort of when you're thinking about these things on a day-to-day basis as well. Because another thing I wanted to just throw in is about time, and how we use our time, you know. And in a way, I think the question of shadow work, as well as being about this sort of embracing the uncomfortable truth, or at least going towards the uncomfortable truth, is this question of really looking at how we're using our time, really considering what is value. Sorry about that. What is value to us? Yeah, what we value at the deepest level or the highest level, you know, the most holistic level. What we're really here to do. You know, actually, I have a lyric in one of my songs, which is an old song of mine, which is, did you come to this planet for a reason? Well, if you ain't doing it, when are you leaving? You know, it's like we're here to actually do something. We know we are, really. I think everyone really feels this, you know, we actually are here to align with truth. And that's what this journey is about. And that's what the shadow work is about, is going, okay, I am here to align with truth. Yuck, it's horrible. I'm not good enough. All of this, whatever, stories, pulling all of that apart and fucking breaking through and lifting yourself up, going, no, I can. So obviously I've gone on for a bit way longer than I normally do in the intro, partly because there's, it's a smaller group, so that was fun. I hope that made sense to you guys, so I'll pass on to whoever.
Yeah, I'd like to come straight in on after you there, because you've triggered something in me, actually, Nemo, when you spoke about was it Japanese or Chinese philosopher from the 13th century? I didn't catch his name.
Mitchell,
Yeah.
Japanese.
About the demons coming in. That's a really interesting thing, because I've struggled with that, or become consciously aware of the demons coming in probably about the last 5 years. But when I look back on my life, they've definitely been there, and I've not been consciously aware of it. And I've noticed probably in the last 5 years, every time that I've got to a stage where I think that I'm about to do brilliant right action, they seem to definitely come in, and I'm either got a physical illness, like mentally fucking fucked up, or emotionally completely go haywire. And I've just found it so interesting. That's the first time I've recognized a connection with shadow work there. You saying that, because that is the time and the opportunity. So basically what I'm trying to say to you is fucking demons are real, right? They're 100% real. Been there and I've fucking seen them, right? They are real. But the thing that's confused me in the past, which I've got clear clarification now, thanks to you, Nemo, is that what comes up in myself is really an opportunity, maybe through past life experiences or learnt behavior from my childhood, of how I react to certain things or how I deal with certain things. It's an opportunity to really try and break through and question yourself. Do you want to do the right thing in life? So is it you that's preventing that? I'd say it's 50-50. I'd say it's the dark forces wanting you to, prevent you from doing that. But it's also your own fuck ups. And it's down to you to get past those fuck ups and then plow on and push through and power through. That to me is what it's an opportunity to do shadow work. And as always before these shows, I think very intensely about what we're going to speak about. And I think that there's different degrees of shadow work. And I think the different degrees come in that you have to take into consideration your physical aspect, your mental aspect, your emotional aspect, and your spiritual aspect. And then depending on what degree you're working on, there will be different levels of intensity. Say, for instance, your spiritual, that could manifest in what some people call the dark night of the soul. And that is when you are completely questioning a very painful process where, yeah, it does feel like you're dying, because part of your ego is dying, or your identity of what you were before. And but then you've got your mental and emotional. And I think I think it was a psychologist, Carl Jung, when he spoke about like your mental and emotional aspects, maybe they are influenced by your childhood experiences. For example, if your mum and dad turned around and said to you a certain thing that made you feel conflicted or disgusted with yourself or shame about yourself, it will be too much for a child to take that kind of information or emotion. So that would be pushed aside, because you didn't know, you didn't have the skills to deal with it as a child, and that becomes your shadow. And then you've got your physical side, which I think you need to go down sort of someone help me out here, I can't pronounce the word. Epigenetics.
Yeah.
And how outside things that we're putting into our bodies can have a massive influence on us. Like some people with medication, education, the schooling system, media, anything external that we're all used to in this culture, even the environment, pollution, everything, how that's getting taken into the body. So how the cells on the very microcosm, excuse me, are having an effect. So you can even have shadow work on the very physical side as well. So there might be some people out there that that would like to reach their full potential, but there's something in them physically that's preventing that. Like myself, I smoke fags, so I know that it's something that I have to get past. That physically, that's having an effect on my body, so it's not allowing me to achieve my full potential. So you have to do some inner work there. So that's what I would say is one degree of shadow work. And as I said, mental and emotional, you have to maybe change the way you react to external things, what people say to you, through your mental and emotional reactions. And then, as I said, your spiritual, the dark night of the soul. Why the fuck are we here? And like, what is it that you really belong to, like your faith? So, yeah, I think there's varying degrees of shadow work. That's all I'm going to say for a minute.
Most definitely. I think you're very right that the whole topic of shadow work has to be expanded on every level, like you said, psychological, mental, emotional, and physical. For example, to exercise your body, to feed it with good stuff, really knowing what good food is, and yeah, really looking to only take those foods in, clean water, etc. But also like music and people around you, and like having the television running 24/7. That's definitely influence as well. I spoke with Derek on radiation, like Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and such things that can really have an influence on your thinking and your mood and everything. All the anti-social media, like our friends from Meta and so on, it's definitely yeah, it's our decision in what we really want to invest our time and attention. And I think that a big step in all the shadow work is also to really ask yourself the hard and important questions. Do I really do the right thing? Do I really do the thing that gets me to more freedom? And or do I like self-sabotage myself by working against freedom, just paying lip service and so on? And all these things have to be respected in the true sense of the word, have to be revisited and re-looked at, to get to the core of your own behavior and your being. And that includes intense trauma and shadow work. As you said, Yvonne, the things parents say to a child with at age of 4 years or something can be very, very traumatic, and have an impact for the rest of their life, if they are not like making the trauma conscious. And it doesn't have to be like I think like a slap on the wrist or something like that, but the simple phrase, you won't get it, you won't achieve that, you're not good enough, or something like that is much more harmful in the long run. And most of us seem to be not aware of the baggage they have been bestowed upon from their parents and society. One of the things that was really eye-opening for myself was the scientific proof that when you just observe and like a kind gesture, like somebody helping another person, being kind to another person, boosts your immune system and makes your whole like body vibration go up and makes you feel better just observing it. And when we now like take a step back and take our time to look back at the, let's say, last 5-6 years and in which direction it has, yeah, this has been going, this development, it's I think it's really shows, the outside world shows us our own lack of care for us, for truth, for love, for freedom. Yeah, it's sad to see that the demons are so strong that most of the people are not seem not to be able to face them, just to look in the mirror and stop lying to themselves. That seems to be an too big of an obstacle for most of the people, just to really, yeah, be honest to themselves at first and really just think some things really through until you reach the end point, and then respect your own behavior and your own like life's plan and adjust it. That would be really great for us all. So thanks in advance.
Yeah, Vuk, thank you. And yeah, geez, where to piggyback off what you just said? Yeah, as far as like all these things that we're subjected to, and we have to think just outside of the box of, yeah, the whole things that we consume, whether it be food, music, anything that comes into our ears, into our eyesights, and all that, into our mouth, and all that stuff, right? And also, what are we just subjected to as far as the elements and how they've been unfortunately polluted and all that jazz, right? Yeah, so those are just things that help, that just detoxifying the body, taking care of more of yourself, coming more into that self-awareness, that proper self-care are, little chipping away at the calcified and toxic self, and the lead-based self, if we want to get into alchemical terms, turning our lead-based consciousness and as well as the physical aspects into that golden state of being, golden state of mind, and the physicality, as within so without. Take it to the Hermetica, because it's all about your state of mind, and then there's the correspondence, the level of vibration that you're on, polarity, and whether you're able to resolve the paradox of your subjective truth in correlation to the objective truth and the objective reality and the objective morality that we need to be aligned with, and all that good stuff, right? And then, yeah, the cause and effect, we have to be very wary of what are we putting out into the world, like abracadabra, mother lovers. Guess what? Your words kind of cast spells if you've, done your education correctly, right? I know I'm kind of playing on words, but you follow what I'm saying a little bit. Anyway, so yeah, and then the gender. I'm going over the Hermetica real quick. Like the mental gender, the both hemispheres of the brain, and all that stuff. And if you're a man, be a fucking man. If you're a woman, be a woman. And I know it's hard in the state of society and the economics of everything, because it has people inverted, and a lot of women, especially driven by the neo-feminism, are way too caught up and got too much yang up in their thing. And I got respects for folks just trying to be independent and be responsible for their own and all that stuff. We got a new Yo, Flora, what's up?
Hi.
Going?
Hi, sorry, a little late, but
Yeah, no
good
worries.
to join.
Yeah, cheers. You'll be up next after me, mon ami.
Okay.
Maybe. I'm gonna just finish off real quick. Well, I kind of just got started, but
Take your time.
cheers. Yeah. And then like the rhythm. Lene, she had a lot of great comments in the Europa Natural Law Telegram chat, and she was talking about egregores. And another way to put that is pendulums. If people are familiar with that, and thinking of pendulums with that swing of things in regards to the law of rhythm. But to break it down, like an egregore is just like an idea that, or seed of consciousness, an idea, whatever, that got planted, and is as more and more people became aware of it, it became like a thing, and it kind of, there can be like its own consciousness kind of constructed out of that, in a sense, and it can be for the good or the bad. It all depends on where that energy is shifting, that, and possibly the intentions behind it. So yeah, things to consider, and we have to understand the swinging of the pendulum and all that. So yeah, let's just define shadow work real quick, because like, what is the shadow aspects of ourselves? It is that the unconscious, subconscious realms that are way deeper than a lot of people estimate them to be, and it has to deal with it as well of all the repressed memories and traumas and things that we've experienced, all the uncomfortable moments and all that stuff, even maybe some of the good times, just like lost memories or fragments of that have not been properly recognized, reconciled, brought to awareness, and integrated. And that's a key term, integration. Even when we're learning the truth and all this stuff, it has to be integrated. It can't just be, you have to take it through the fucking trivium process. And it's becoming almost a buzzword, is that people don't know what that entails, of when you gather your grammar, the knowledge, you keep stacking that knowledge up, and you're processing it. You're going through understanding, understanding, and overstanding that. And then you're able to have your rhetoric and put proper action to the knowledge that you learned, and you learn from your mistakes so you don't repeat those things and all that stuff. And you could take that from the individual all the way to the macrocosm on so many different levels, whether it be on the individual level, collective, and so forth, right? So truth hurts, as Nemo mentioned, and that is one of the things that going through the process of even self-awareness, especially if you were brought up in a household that didn't necessarily have the most conscious parents. And yes, unfortunately, there are family members that have molested other family members and all that shit. And so those are parts of these repressed, traumatized things that can manifest into certain ailments and even like mental issues down the line if they're not dealt with, right? So yeah, we all understand that these things are uncomfortable to confront and deal with and try to heal and kind of reconcile with that inner child. And that's kind of like shadow work, the inner work, that alchemical process, right? And recognize and realize that like, as children, we are at our most innocent and vulnerable, and we don't have total control and strength to say no and all that stuff. We're more nescient than ignorant and aware of the ways the world's and even our inherent rights and all these things. So it's not we have to just give us some grace and reclaim the dignity and not be attached to that like we realize some people fall into the pits of victimhood, right? And they identify and attach with that too much for too long sometimes, and that weighs them down. And it's like that shadow work isn't really properly dealt with. And Nemo, you mentioned, and Yvonne, I'm glad you mentioned that again, like the Japanese Nichiren or whatever, with the devils coming along the pathwork to kind of derail you and this and that. Think about the betrayal of Thoth, and like how thoughts, Thoth is also thought. And if it betrays yourself, you have those, self-sabotaging moments. And we do have to keep, things like Watiko in mind and that kind of stuff. And the whole things of attachments, having too much attachment to, your false identity, and, attachments to falsehoods and things that these belief systems that we had ego attachments to and all this stuff. Those are like the toenails and fingernails of the Norse mythological boat called Naglfar, something like that. And that's an allegory of how, crossing the streams of consciousness, there's going to be the Klingons of attachment, that the old self trying to crawl back out of its grave, like, hey, like you know what I mean, like you got to kill the zombies within yourself. That fucking shadow work, like straight Draco slayers and shit, so it does take a lot of time. Nemo, you mentioned time, and I'm going to end it on that because I've taken a lot of time on this round. And Flora, I'd love to hear what you got to say. A time. When you mentioned that, Nemo, you made me think of like time is also Chronos, and that's in relation to Saturn. And when you have that Saturnian, the Saturn's return, if you will, and that kind of stuff, and you just think about it in terms of the astrological archetype of Saturn, and just like the harsh life lessons that it can bring forth. And I'm on like a really harsh degree in my natal chart with Saturn. And so learning about that and realizing like, oh my God, yeah, like I've noticed I've had to learn the hard way too many times in my life. And it's like, why? Like, so that's one of the things that helps you realize like, geez, like, hey man, like let's just take it a little bit more easy. We don't have to make things harder than they already are. Let's learn from our mistakes more, and not repeat certain things, and maybe pass off some lessons to others so they don't fall for the same hurtful sufferance. Anyway, so I hope that made sense and people were able to follow. And Flora, what's good?
Yes. Well, good that I could join. I'm a little bit late, so I'm afraid that I haven't heard what's been spoken of before. I haven't, but yes, shadow work. I have some points that I did wanted to make, and I think shadow work for me personally is about knowing yourself, and knowing yourself in all different layers. So know yourself psychologically, but also know about the nervous system. How does your brain works? How does your nervous system works? But I think the most important thing is we call it shadow work because it's about things that are put in the shadow. So things that are in darkness and our consciousness doesn't see or comprehend or know. And when you look at Jungian psychology, we talk about the shadow, and you have like the ego. And the ego is the way we interact with the world. So it's the medium between us and the world. And we have our self, and our self is like the self with the capital S that you spoke about the other episode before. And the self embodies something larger. The self isn't even personal. It's a transpersonal force. It's greater than us human beings. It's the part in us that is eternal and that is connected to God, so connected to the all. And when we look at our development as human beings, a lot of people are still like children because the ego is so calcified and hasn't really developed itself yet. So it doesn't really know a lot about the things that are in the subconscious. But it would be better if I had some pictures for this, but maybe I can draw something, because to me it made a lot of sense to see this. Okay. Well, one moment. Excuse me. I didn't know I was gonna draw this, but when you are being born as a baby, this is how the ego relates to the self. Oh, it's mirrored, but the ego is totally within the self. So you are one with the whole environment. You are one with the mother. You haven't really differentiated yourself from the world or from the other. So you aren't individuated. And as human beings, it's our task to individuate ourselves and to become an individuated consciousness. But we didn't, and like the ideal would be this. I hope you can see it, but that the ego is not within the self, but totally out the self, but there's a direct line between the ego and the self. So messages from the self can flow through the ego, and we can choose to take action to do that or not to take action to do that. But if there isn't a line, we have no choice. And besides that, a lot of our behavior is really driven by subconscious influences. So if we aren't aware of our subconscious traumas or even our psyche, because if we aren't aware that our psyche is connected to all these subconscious layers, like family patterns, but also the place we live, ancestors, but also the country we live in. And the further we go down in the subconscious, the less individuated the material is. But in our psyche, we are connected to all the experiences from all human beings, from all places and in all time. So even the dinosaurs walk around somewhere deep within our psyche. And if we aren't aware of all these layers, we will never understand what drives us. Because Jung also talks about archetypes. And archetypes are like symbols, and they symbolize experiences, universal experiences for human beings, like becoming a mother, death, and also birth. And a lot of our behavior is also triggered by archetypes without knowing that. Because, yeah, I hope I don't sound too fakely, but yesterday I had some experience that really made me understand things a little bit better, because I was taking on a trip within my own mind, and I just realized how a lot of things we experience as human beings are, how do I say it? It's like looking at the bigger things, but from a greater distance. Like a lot of people on Earth really like universities, and we like to get a diploma, and it's almost sacred, the university, right? The higher the education, the better. But then I realized yesterday that our soul longs for life lessons. There is such a deep longing in us to learn from life and to comprehend things and to learn ourselves and understand what we are and where we live. And like the university is this, but then dissociated. So a lot of our experience are so dissociated from what it actually is. So I realized there is so much innocence in things because we really are like children at some level. And that's why I talked about the ego and the self scale. You can call it a scale, because as a species, as human beings, we didn't reach to become an adult. We are still like children. We know nothing. We have to learn everything. And in our ignorance, we are destructive as fuck. So it's not good to stay this way. But I think in essence, there is a lot of innocence because there is a lot of niches. And of course, there's a lot of fear to not go to the underworld. And nobody wants to go there by free will. We usually get kicked there. But there is so much to gain, and it's just a shame that we got so afraid of ourselves that we take all this shallowness for granted, while we can have such a beautiful life and beautiful connections with ourselves and the world. But I think I have to stop now, but there's so much to say about this subject. Yeah, but I think really it's about re-experience it. Yeah, about the experience we dissociated from. We really have to experience it in our bodies again. We have to feel through all those moments that we split off, and then we will remember again, and we will become a whole human being again, because we live in this defined paradox and we put our eternity in the shadow as well. So all the good stuff is in the shadow. It's there with all the ugliness, but there's so much beauty in the shadow. And yeah.
Thank you. Great words, everyone. Yeah, well, I've made loads of notes. I think, yeah, so that one aspect is of, you know, it's such an easy thing, isn't it, to be like, oh, my parents messed me up, you know, this kind of, it's a cliche, obviously, but it is a huge part, you know, we have to kind of acknowledge that what part of the madness of the world is that no one knows how to parent, and that's been the case for forever. So we really are children of, we're kind of abandoned, you know. This is the thing that PASSIO talks about, you know, that we are these abandoned children that have not really been nurtured and not really taught the truth of the world because it hasn't been known, and so that's the story, you know. That's the story. It's tragic, you know. It's so sad how the state that we're in, and it's so important to talk about it, you know. Which obviously that's why we're doing this. I had a thought. I think while Flor was talking about, you know, I'm just thinking someone listening to this could potentially sort of think, oh, this all sounds a bit complicated. I have to know about the unconscious and you know, my trauma, but I don't know. But the thing is, I think that it's like through moving forward, through seeking to align with yourself and to find the aspect of yourself that does love yourself, through aligning with your unique strengths and desires as well, you know. I think that is the way. If you pursue that alignment of thought, feeling, and action in, you know, with this higher self that obviously we've just talked about that last week. This is a natural sort of continuation of that. Through that process, this shadow work will come at you. You know, you'll see these things. Oh, you'll have these connections with these memories, and you go, oh, that's from that time. That's from that time. You know, I mean, this I can't actually think of the example, but something sprung into my mind this week. You know, from years and years ago, I was like, oh wow, that was actually quite a big thing that someone said to me that time. So maybe it's disappeared back into my subconscious. I don't know. But you know, that's the thing. It's like but through enacting, through seeking this alignment, this stuff will automatically come up. So it's a kind of, it's not just a process of like digging down to find stuff. In fact, that's difficult to do. You know, it's quite difficult to just sort of go, right, here we go, I'm going to do some shadow work. I don't really know if it ever works like that, really. Obviously, you can initiate processes to do that. You certainly can, but even that, the initiation of that process is usually a result of coming up against a wall in yourself, you know, and finding like, why can't I do this thing? Why do I always feel, why do I self-sabotage, or, you know, don't quite find the energy to do that thing all the time, or whatever it is, all of these things. So yeah, that's the kind of thing I wanted to just kind of say, and that sort of, well, return to that idea that in a way it's a simple process, and it's really about the will, you know, the will to align with truth, the will to align with your higher self. Yeah, part of that is this, well, actually, I'll skip that other bit. I've just got tons of notes here. Yeah, I mean, so, and a lot of this is, of course, it's these beliefs or thought forms, which can come down to really simple things. One thing that one person said to us one moment in time, you know, that made you think you couldn't sing in tune, or you look stupid when you dance, or whatever, these kinds of things, whatever. These little moments, the little kind of weird, like I don't know, I'm going to call it a nugget. I don't know, I suppose, yeah, okay, a negative nugget of something, little karmic nugget that just kind of like sits there. And then, and you can overcome these things, you know, of course you can. You have the power, the wherewithal, the strength, you can have the will, you can have the tools, you can find the tools, you can do whatever needs to be done to actually go and find that little king thing, and go, oh look, it's just a little thing that someone said once, and actually I can dance, or whatever it is that you know that it stopped you doing, you know. And obviously on the level of us all, we are in this kind of victim state, you know. This is like this kind of like feigned victim state, you know, the pretense of being victims, the pretense that, oh, the bad guys, oh, the big elitists, oh, you know, the all-powerful, oh, the oligarchs, you know, oh, the plutocracy, you know, it's all a pretense, because obviously, actually, no one is any more powerful than you. That's just on the reality ground level, you know, you are free. That's the truth. So really, that's what we're trying to get to, is the world of people that understand that and that act in accordance with that. And that's called heaven. You know, that's called heaven on earth. And that's what we're aiming for. So I've gone on a little bit. I just want to say again something about self-love. Where are we have time? Oh, yeah. Self-love, acknowledging your strengths, you know, and recognizing your weaknesses, because we aren't all the same, you know. We're not, in that sense, equality is just nonsense, you know. There is no equality in that sense. Everyone's better at something and worse at something else and whatever. So it's kind of part of this is kind of really coming to terms with that and going, you know, really recognizing your unique karma, you know, your unique story and your unique offering to the world. That's what it's really about. So, and again, a bit emotional thinking about it, but you know, so this kind of the potential for self-love, for finding your love for yourself, that's a huge part of it, I think. Absolutely huge, because it is there. You know, I think it is there, and a lot of people can't feel it, and have never known it. You know, and it's something that I've kind of recently, at least, had in recent years, I've kind of had had a reconnection with that, at least, and I've kind of gone, oh no, I actually like myself. I love myself. You know, which no one else can do for you. You know, you can't go back to your parents and say, well, you can, and you can say, oh, but it's not, you know, it's not important. That's something else. It's like, this is about you actually recognizing your higher capacities and everything like that. Right, I've gone on for so long. So we got 10 minutes left. So let's go around again, and yeah, or if you want to, you know. So whoever.
Yeah, can we have another hour, please? It's just such a vast subject, isn't it?
Yeah.
I could, I don't know, feed off all of you. It's just, yeah, really interesting discussion. Yeah, but just mentioned there, Nemo, off the top of my head, going back to your mother and father. To me, that's what the brain or the mind, or it is your mother and father, isn't it? Do you get what I mean? We have it within us. We have it within us, and the child as well. And sometimes, yeah, unfortunately, we can't go back and say to our mum and dad, oh, can we have a cuddle, or can we have this? But, you know, you have to be your own mother and father and heal that, because it's within you. You know, we have God within us or whatever. But there's loads to talk about. I wanted to go back to Vuk, what you're saying, like questioning about why don't people see things? Why don't they see it? Why don't they choose to face certain things? And I put on the chat about the DSM, the medical. Let me just get the proper thing. The Diagnostic and Statistical Manual for Mental Disorders. I think there's a lot of folk out there that are suffering on all different levels, mental and emotional, but because they don't know about shadow work and that they've got their own mother and father within them, they seek that out externally to someone that gives the illusion that they've got authority, and that is the medical profession. And yeah, when I've looked into the DSM quite a lot, and it's interesting. It started off in 1952. Excuse me, and they had 102 different mental disorders in there, and the latest one that was completed by 2022, interestingly enough, just after the COVID lockdown and things like that, it went up to over 450 mental disorders. And yeah, if people took on those aspects, excuse me, my throat's going, excuse me. Excuse me. So yeah, maybe the shadow is coming up in people, but they just don't know how to deal with it, and it's getting put down to mental illnesses, and which I find one of the most saddest things. One of the most saddest things that are going on. Yeah, so if people learn how to take responsibility and realize that they do have the power to change all these things, then yeah, the world will be a lot better place. A lot better place. And there was another thing that I wrote down as well. Oh yeah, about coming out. Yeah, shadow work mustn't always be seen as darkness. Like, is there a difference between dark and light? That's what I'm trying to explain. Sometimes what can seem like a dark situation, just so I'm just going to bring it down to the physical, like a physical illness. It might seem horrific to start with, but really, is it not an opportunity? Is it not just something in you that's dying to come out, to be brought to the light? And if you just allow that process to happen, then you might find that it brings with it wonderful gifts. Yeah, so don't be frightened of your feelings. And another thing I wanted to quickly say, I know I seem to be obsessed with the medical profession tonight, but I don't know if you come across it. Is it 100,000 babies? They want to, with I can't fucking say that word, epigenetics. They want to, track the genome of 100,000 babies. They're doing an experiment.
Epigenetically manipulate, if you will?
Well, no, they're just tracking it for research, taking the bloods of the 100,000 babies, and it's all about Derek, to try and detect certain illnesses before they even happen. It's preventative medicine. So after our discussion tonight, I just find it, excuse me, fucking throat, sorry. So sorry, guys. After tonight's discussion, I find that so worrying that they're even concentrating on preventative medicine, because if you take it to the micro level, if there's something that at birth is slightly what they're viewing as imbalanced, then if they put in preventative medicine to stop it, you're taking away the fucking opportunity of that soul to bring things out into the light. So keep your kids away from the fucking medical profession, as far as I'm concerned.
And it stunts the growth of the developing immune system as well.
Absolutely, but it's just, it's going to change things on all levels. You cannot separate the physical to all the other. You just can't separate it.
True.
So there's a reason why that child at that given point, when they're taking that blood, has got whatever pattern going on in their genome. There's a reason for it. Leave it alone. Leave it alone. That's all I want to say.
Look,
Yeah, it's the whole medical stuff is another discussion for itself. And what Yvonne spoke at the beginning about is of these people that show up when you try to do the right thing. For example, say I want to do shadow work tomorrow, and I just want to, let's say, dig down on certain aspects of myself and so on. And like studying Jung and psychology is like high level shadow work, but it can be like down to earth questions like, whom can I trust in a disaster situation, for example. Just to think about this question, to make a plan for the family, where to, let's say, bug out when things get rough, etc. That's shadow work as well. But there are many aspects, and I do want to say that when you, for example, schedule yourself to doing shadow work, Mark called them agents when he discussed the fourth part of the Matrix trilogy. The people that show up and try to, let's say, seduce you to do other things and not the right thing. These people can be very good trainers for seeing yourself, how good your shadow work, your own inner shadow work is going. because when you let's say be such of such high vibe consciousness, for example, when they really try to like detract you from your plan, and you can say no to them, that's a great victory, for example, and then you can proceed with your plans, doing the right thing, or just asking the right questions, listening to the knowledge you need, or like reading, or any way you decide to do it. But I think the most important part is to really do it, and not all parts of our darkness are evil. For example, you can use, like, quote unquote, use dark parts for self-defense purposes, and like rearrange their focus on like things where they're where the right to show, like, quote unquote, dark emotions like anger and rage and yeah, disgust and everything. Just to, for example, to order those let's say wirings in your brain and in your psyche, in your heart, is shadow work as well. And yeah, so there's a lot of facets of this whole topic, and it's yeah, I think just to give everybody an idea that it doesn't have to be young to do shadow work. You can really do it just in front of a mirror, or talk with your friends and ask the real important and hard questions and answer them honestly. There you go.
Flora, I'll let you go, and I'll go after you. If it sounded like you wanted to speak about something.
Well, it was what Yvonne talked about made me think about another important aspect. Yes, I'm sorry because I want to tell so many things and I have too little time, so I will try to keep it more grounded. But what I wanted to say, I guess, is the offer we as humans have to make is give our ego to the self. And that's a very big process. And that's a journey as well. But I do think it's essential because the problem in this world is that we have lost so much soul. We have to embody the soul again. And then we will understand and we will know. But what happens now is that our ego is so inflated that we do things that are not, how do you say it? Our ego is inflated to the proportion of godlike, but we forgot God at the same time. So it's a very paradoxical situation. And that's also what Yvonne talked about with the babies and the genomes. That's like an inflated ego. That is someone whose ego is not developed enough to have a connection to the soul and to the self and to God. So that ego is totally caught up in materialism and in some mechanic, toxic worldview, and pretends to be God. So we are destructive as our ego is inflated, and in our ignorance. For Greek, hubris was the greatest sin there was, because it's very dangerous for little children to do grown up things, I guess. And well, I just wanted to say that the instincts also play a very important part when it comes to shadow work. And that's why I talked about the nervous system, because the theory behind the nervous system and our instincts and it's very important for us to know, because then we will understand ourselves and we will understand why we fear emotions or feelings so much, because we do know moments of being scared to death, and that are parts that we split off. And to integrate this energy again in our systems is very important to become whole again and to get our life energy to become complete again. But there's so many things to say. I'll leave it here. So I give the word to you, Derek.
You're on a roll there. I appreciate all that, Flora. Thank you. And yeah, thank you so much for joining, even if you showed up, not at the hour, not like it matters, but yeah, love everyone's presence and what everyone brought to the table. And yeah, Nemo, you were talking about how people are, and yeah, we see this, in the politics of things, of like people are stressing, equal worth, erroneously equated to equal rights, and that's not right. So that's just to kind of emphasize what you were talking about, because people got that shit twisted. Like, imagine you cannot compare the same person who studied something for umpteen years, whatever, to someone else and expect the same fucking pay rate, whatever the fuck, that kind of stuff. Think about it. And I'm not trying to throw negative nuggets at anyone. And like, Nemo, you had me cracking up with that. And yeah, it's not for. I love that. Just a friendly reminder, like, don't get hung up on like negative nuggets thrown at you, as if that. Why should these are like little speed bumps along your path, like little pebbles on your path, just kick rocks, whatever, like what, like, do you know yourself if you're steadfast or headstrong in who you are, you'll be steadfast on that path. And so yeah, just to close it out, because yeah, I had some notes written down and all that. I'm just gonna rifle through this shit because yeah, as we know, or maybe we don't, because a lot of people can underestimate this term shadow work and throw it out like a new age spiritual fucking buzzword and talk about it, live vicariously through it, virtue signal it, and throw it out there as if they know what the fuck they're talking about and they've done the fucking shit. And for those that have done the work, this is one of the things you can notice when you've really done that deep shadow work. You can notice other people's projections and other things like that. And it goes the same with kind of like the trivium. You can recognize people's logical fallacies as well, kind of hand in hand sometimes. So there's a lot of these arts and sciences that just go together so wonderfully. And that's why we keep bringing these things up, because they're all in the fold of, being a better fucking human being and being aligned to natural law and, proper alignment to living a moral, good life. So yeah, it is a vast subject and there's many aspects to it. The dynamics at play can vary quite differently from individuals to individuals and from country to country and all this stuff, and how people were brought up, and you could take it to their lineage, the generational stuff. And then if you want to go even deeper, because past lives and all that stuff. So yeah, there's like that extra layer of integration and things to look at deeper and remember your past selves and all that stuff, pre-incarnation, procarnation here. So yeah, just but at the 3D level, let's just understand our bloodline right now, and especially dealing with the anima and animus, which is what Carl Jung talks about. And if you're a man, look to your mother's side, and these things kind of it goes into sexual preference a little bit. Just look into the works of Carl Jung. We don't have time to get into it. Obviously, we're just concluding. So yeah, it's really just about the shadow work, like healing all the types of trauma on a multidimensional level, metaphysical level, mental level. That's the mental domain, the mental dimension, and the emotional dimension. That's just to not get all woo woo with y'all, like those. That's just more than one dimension is multidimensional kind of thing. So anyways, so we got to make that darkness within us conscious. We got to be that hermits. Take it back to what we were talking about. We need to take a time out, take a knee from people and that you're around, colleagues, cohorts, friends, family, sometimes, whenever, however you can, and it's just a temporary thing. You just say like, hey, I'm going through a phase, trying to reinvent myself, or just trying to work something out, process some stuff, or whatever, or I'm healing, or people will understand, and honestly, you'll get a good amount of encouragement and support, I'm sure, and also respect of one's space, because people do need to have that proper time and space and place to do the proper fucking work, and take it properly and go through the process all the way, and recognize and realize that it's more of a marathon, not just a quick fix, a little sprint and 100-yard dash type of thing. Like, these things take time, especially depending on the amount of time has elapsed since, not dealing with certain things, the problems that have ensued from it, whatever. Like, as I mentioned, it's, it depends on so many different dynamics for the individual. So anyways, introspection, reflection, and those mirror moments are something else. And what's worked for me is, like, the catalyst for me was, the huge breakup of being divorced and all that, and just like countless mirror moments and times, like, going over so many things, and like going over how much of the wrongdoings I was in and all this stuff, and trying to be not hard on myself and more objective, but really trying to pinpoint my error in ways in the past and all that stuff, and coming to terms with that, like, hey, like, this has to stop, you got to change, we got to improve, and whatever. Not like, I was a fucked up husband or whatever, what I mean? There's a two-way street and all that stuff. And one of the things that was really key, and that was actually a really healing moment between my ex-wife and I, actually, is because one of the things she didn't like about me was that, sometimes, like, I got that righteous indignation, or I got a lot of fire. I'm a Leo fire sign and all that stuff. I'm like, rah, sometimes. And I wouldn't be like blowing up in her face, especially for nothing trivial, but she would overreact. Like, she'd be kind of hypersensitive. And it was even like, we were in the car going to the lawyer to have our divorce thing. And she was talking about, like, yeah, and I noticed that, my father, I was traumatized in a sense because he yelled at me because he was looking for the television remote control, and it was like hiding like underneath me or behind me or something like that. And he got mad at me, but nothing happened. But it's just like, that childhood traumatized moment that just doesn't get dealt with. And so when she said that, it was like an aha moment for both of us, because I had no idea at that time. And so just the ways that these the shadow workings and revelations, it's magical, and it's healing, and it's wholesome, and it's holistic. So I encourage people to do that and look at your past relationships, your current ones, and all that stuff. And also, even if you're single, work within what you got going on, and try to formulate the proper archetype and prototype, or whatever, if you will, the ideal partner that you have. And it's obviously going to be a reflection of where you currently at consciously. And so, yeah, like, also, like, traveling helps out with the shadow work. You have time to self-reflect on some things, especially if you're driving and stuff. Even cooking, even cleaning, washing the dishes, even cutting your hair. You get, you losing, shedding off some, old stuff or whatever. And fasting, that works tons for me. I cannot overemphasize that, but I know I'm speaking way too much. Just real quick, for anyone else that wants to learn more about this, Caroline Riley, my friends Colin and Melissa at Shadow Tech Alchemy, and my good friend and fellow classmate Odysseus Andrianos. They've all written books, as well as my really good friend Mario West. You can check them out. We've had pretty much all of them on my channels, especially Dissolving the Divide. And that's all I'm going to plug in. Did I spend too much time? Are we good? Nemo, you good?
Very good, thanks. Yeah, we'll drop those, any links, any extra links, I'll add them into the show notes, Derek. So I just wanted to add a couple of very quick things. obviously we've talked about so many different this, that, and the other stuff that we've picked up, but it's your journey, you know. So it's you might not use any of this. You might not need any of the languages or the tools that we've been talking about. It's a journey where you have to go on your journey, your path. And really, it's actually very simple. You know, it's about being honest with yourself. I think that's like a fundamental thing, you know, aspect of it. And as people have mentioned, mirror work, and it's this kind of, it's not exactly like a formal thing. I don't know if Mark PASSIO even calls it mirror work, but I've come to call it that. And it's been a very, very simple and very great tool for me. So I just want to kind of finish on that. Oh yeah, before I do say that, it's just to say, you know, I'm on this journey. I'm no way perfected, you know. I'm no way perfected and looking at the rest of humanity and going, I mean, I am looking at the rest of humanity and going, come on, you know, most of you are not like really trying that hard. But it's not to say I'm like up there, enlightened, you know. I know I've got a long way to go. But this is a tool that's helped me. And I think, as far as I know, Mark PASSIO came up with this tool, and it's like you look in the mirror and you stay there and you ask yourself in the mirror, why am I not doing what I say I want to do? And that's it. Such a simple tool. And, you know, and it's this thing of like what you say you want and then what you're actually doing. And is, you know, do you actually want something if you're not actually doing it? And that disconnect is about this misalignment of your, you know, your feelings, your thoughts, and your actions. So it's a very, very simple, great tool. Can be quite hard to really knuckle down and do it, but you know, when you do, I highly recommend that as one of the most simple tools for shadow work. Right. So thank you so much, everyone. Yep, I think that's it's time to wrap up.
Yeah.
That was really. Sorry. Yeah.
Is there time for one thing?
Yeah, go.
Yes, I only want to say, is there talks about projection? Because Jung called projection the royal way to the self. And if you have an emotion on whatever, it can be a person, it can be a situation, it's so important to address where it's coming from, because we give our own unknown face to the whole world. And that's our illusions as well. So that's the only thing I wanted to add, because it's important. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, you've just reminded me of something else that came up for me while Derek was talking. Sorry, this is obviously one of those infinite subjects, which is just that the gift of, you know, having it brings up this really genuine compassion of wanting to of seeing other people's shadow and going like, oh, well, I mean, even if you can't quite work out what's going on, you kind of, you know, there's this shadow there, so you have more compassion for them, you have more understanding, you can be less in your trigger. You're seeing someone being triggered, but you're kind of like, well, I see your trigger, it's not triggering me, you know. That balance starts to shift, you know, I think, with this process, which is a hidden extra bonus. Okay, so thanks everyone. That was a great discussion. And yeah, as I say every week, you know, the algorithm, the holy sacred algorithm that drives the universe, apparently doesn't have a clue about what's important. It needs you, dear listener, to tell it. So please do go and comment, subscribe, link, share, comment. I just said that, all the other things. You know, because it just helps nudge us along. And I think what we've done, I think this was a great show. Don't you, everyone? I think this was good. I think this is valuable, you know, and there's a lot of dross out there, as I said at the beginning. So, you know, we're doing our best. We are doing our best. And I know some people don't think it's good enough, but we're getting there. We're getting somewhere. So yeah, check out all the description. All the links in the descriptions. There's everyone's content there, and also the Europa Natural Law Telegram channel. where you can join, and we have discussions, very lively discussions. It's got quite heated even this week, which is fine. And yeah, it's a vibrant little community we've got going on there. So come on over. The link's probably, Derek's maybe sharing it now, but it's anyway, it's in the description. Sorry to ramble on so much. We're also going to head over there right now, just to have a post-show discussion. You can come and join that if you like. And apart from that, thank you everyone. Until next time, I'm Nemo Jones, reporting for Beauty, and I look forward to seeing you all next time on Europa Natural Law. Thank you.
Thank you.